about the woods today. As long as everybody wants to talk about the woods, if there's people that want to also extend and look at some of the prairie stuff, I know that Norman and Brian both are prairie experts and would be happy to have that conversation as well. So that's he made his career planting prairies for people here in southern part of the state. He worked out of the Newville office. Let's go to the woods. So my first public service announcement here is identifying poison ivy. Is there anyone that doesn't know what poison ivy looks like? There's some right here. It loves growing along trails. There's some here. There's a lot of it, and it grows as vines growing up trees. So when we go off trail, just if you have shorts or no socks or something, just please be careful and watch out for it. It's what do you guys see out here in the forest? What are the first things that you notice?
Well, since I clear a lot of trails, I always look at the dead wood first and how much I'm going to have to start cutting out with my chainsaw and my burn piles.
Okay. Okay. So do you think the dead wood in the forest is a problem?
Nope, I'm just a type A personality.
Okay.
So.
Well, and I work with a lot of landowners over the years, like, we got to clean all that stuff up.
It's a lot of organisms.
Every dead tree, everything that falls down gets cut up for firewood. And
I'm not that bad.
okay, but to an extent, I think, I don't know, a lot of this area was settled by, Germans, Scandinavians, and I think they have this picture of everything being neat and tidy, and that kind of gets passed down through the generations. Certainly dead wood in the forest has benefits. Of course, breaks down and adds organic matter to the soil. It grows fungus that's a food source for squirrels and mice. And what things eat mushrooms, Brian? A lot of
wildlife eat mushrooms.
Yeah.
A lot of rodents eat mushrooms.
Right, and when you get a pile of brush, it serves as shelter, protection for prey species, from hawks and other things. So, there is a benefit to having some amount of dead wood in a forest. So, from a habitat standpoint, it's something to consider that we shouldn't have to clean it all up. Certainly in recreational areas, along trails and so forth, there's a benefit to doing it. Are probably at least 150 years old, these big ones in here. So they were around, in the early days of Wisconsin settlement times. The thing about oak hickory forests is that they do not tend to perpetuate themselves. Because oak and hickory trees are both sun-loving trees. So once they establish as a forest, after an area has been opened, they're considered an early successional species. Then they've created these beautiful canopies with all this shade. And now when those acorns and hickory nuts fall down, and they do germinate, but they just don't have enough sunlight to survive and grow the next generation unless it's in an area where it's getting a lot of sunlight. So what happens over time is that the forest will succeed to more shade-tolerant species. So hickory is kind of intermediate, so you will see young hickory in here. Cherry is a species that can grow with some shade. Elm is another common species that can grow with some shade. And then over time, if you had the more continuous forest land like you do in northern Wisconsin, you also have seed sources for species like basswood and sugar maple. And those are the ultimate climax forest because sugar maple and basswood can regenerate in their own shade. So they will just continue to keep replenishing themselves.
What's a tree like that worth on a stump?
If it's solid, which is a big question mark, and I have to say I'm not current with markets right now because I haven't been working actively as a forester, but you got to measure the diameter of it, right? This looks like about 32-inch diameter tree, and then you have to figure out the volume of the wood in it, right? How many 16-foot logs can you get out of that? Two. Okay. Very tree with 2 logs would have about 892 board feet. I think what I remember the going stumpage price for red oak was probably $150 to $200 per 1,000 board feet. So if it's just under 1,000 board feet, maybe $150 to $200. So this is a hollow tube with a drill bit on the end. And this is called the extractor, and that will fit inside to pull the core out, hopefully, after you drill it in. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So I put the extractor in. Push it along the edge of the wood and give it a turn to cut it. Okay, this is pretty rough count, but I'm getting about 34. So who guessed 30?
Wow.
Good job. Good job. And just by looking at the size of that tree, I probably would have said like 25 to 35, just because where it's growing and what I know about the growth rate of blackberry trees or whatever.